Most people believe that heartbreak is accidental, something that just happens. Welcome to emotional shadow when two people fall out of sync. But what if the truth is far darker? What if the real reason one person ends up hurt while the other walks away untouched has nothing to do with love, compatibility, or timing, and everything to do with hidden psychological patterns that operate beneath awareness? Patterns so subtle, so deeply rooted, that you don't even realize you are being guided step by step toward emotional pain. These patterns quietly predict who becomes the giver, who becomes the chaser, who becomes emotionally vulnerable, and who ends up silently walking away while the other falls apart. And yet almost no one ever sees these forces shaping their relationships until the damage is already done. The deeper history behind these patterns stretches far beyond modern relationships. Decades ago, attachment theorists like John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth uncovered the first clues. People do not enter love as blank slates. They carry blueprints formed in childhood, internal rules that define how much closeness feels safe and how much distance feels necessary. Later, psychologists like Esther Perel, Harville Hendricks, and Dr. Stan Tekin expanded the idea, suggesting that adult relationships mirror our earliest emotional environments. But the twist came when researchers began noticing something unsettling. People with certain emotional histories repeatedly wound up in relationships where they were the ones hurting more, trying harder, or investing deeper. Even when the circumstances changed, it wasn't randomness, it was predictability. It was and most people still don't till you realize they are following scripts written long before they ever fell in love. These invisible patterns begin forming early. A child who learns to earn affection through compliance often becomes the partner who apologizes first, forgives quickly, and stays long after the relationship turns harmful. Someone raised in chaos may subconsciously equate intensity with love and will be drawn toward unpredictable partners, mistaking emotional turbulence for passion. Meanwhile, a child who grows up self-reliant learns to maintain distance to protect themselves, eventually becoming the adult who withdraws when intimacy deepens, unintentionally hurting the partner who is trying to connect. These roots shape the rise of harmful dynamics in adulthood. One person slowly starts doing more of the emotional labor. The other becomes increasingly distant or demanding, and the balance of power begins tilting. And with every shift, the risk of emotional pain grows. As the relationship progresses, these early patterns evolve into a system of cause and effect. Small things like who initiates conversations more, who tries to repair arguments first, or who feels responsible for maintaining harmony become early predictors of who will end up hurt. When one partner consistently prioritizes the relationship while the other prioritizes their autonomy, the emotional pressure expands like a hidden fault line. Then comes the breaking point. The first moment where one partner needs reassurance and the other cannot or will not provide it. The gulf widens. Communication strains. Misunderstandings repeat, and the partner who always loves with more vulnerability begins to feel the emotional weight of the entire relationship. This is where hurt begins taking shape, not through big betrayals, but through hundreds of quiet moments where emotional needs go unmet. Over time, these moments accumulate. Emotional intimacy weakens. Conversations turn into debates. Silences become signals of danger rather than comfort. Attempts to fix the relationship often fail because both partners are using different emotional languages. The one who fears losing the relationship tries harder, sending longer messages, initiating deeper talks, finding explanations for the distance. But the partner who fears engulfment pulls farther away, seeking space instead of connection. And the tragic irony is that both believe they are doing what is best, yet both are unknowingly reinforcing the very patterns that will injure them. The giver feels increasingly unwanted. The distancer feels increasingly suffocated. The cycle tightens until it becomes nearly impossible to escape without someone getting deeply hurt. Modern relationship research shows that these dynamics are not isolated, they're repeating across millions of couples. Studies reveal that around 40% of adults have insecure attachment tendencies, making them more prone to misinterpreting signals, falling into manipulative patterns, or triggering emotional shutdowns without realizing it. In many cases, manipulation is not intentional. It is survival behavior. A partner who avoids conflict may withhold honesty. A partner afraid of abandonment might use excessive reassurance seeking. A partner longing for connection may overcommunicate, overwhelming the other. And because both believe their behavior is normal, the communication breakdown appears sudden, even though it has been building quietly for months or years. These repeating patterns create predictable emotional outcomes. The partner who feels more, invests more, or fears losing more almost always ends up more hurt. Not because the other is cruel, but because emotional vulnerability and emotional detachment do not collide. Gently, they collide explosively. Technology adds another layer. Ghosting, half-hearted texting, rushed replies, and inconsistently affectionate messages amplify insecurities. Social media comparisons worsen doubts, and the more pressure the insecure partner feels, the more their behavior inadvertently pushes the other away. What once felt like love begins to feel like pressure. What once felt like connection begins feeling like obligation. And what once felt mutual turns into a silent emotional imbalance, where one person carries everything the other cannot or will not give. When these patterns go unchecked, they eventually shape identity. The hurt partner begins believing they're too emotional, too much, or too sensitive. Manuel. The emotionally distant partner begins believing they are being controlled, overburdened, or misunderstood. These beliefs harden into defenses, making future connections even more difficult. The emotional wounds repeat, the roles repeat, the outcomes repeat. And without awareness, each new relationship quietly reinforces the same dynamic. One partner gets hurt first, deeper, and longer. But this does not happen by fate. It happens by patterns that can be changed, but only when they are finally recognized. 3 core takeaways emerge from understanding these invisible patterns. First, emotional vulnerability without boundaries is not love. It is self-abandonment. Recognizing your own patterns allows you to love without losing yourself. Second, emotional distance is often a defense mechanism, not a lack of care. Understanding this helps you communicate without triggering withdrawal or fear. And third, the people who are most likely to get hurt are often the ones who love the hardest because they never learn to protect their emotional energy. Awareness becomes their shield. If there is one caution to leave you with, it is this. Love is fragile not because people are flawed, but because the emotional histories they carry into relationships rarely match. 2 people may love each other deeply and still wound each other simply because their emotional patterns do not align. Trust, closeness, and vulnerability must be built with awareness, not blind hope. Otherwise, the silent patterns continue deciding who gets hurt long before either partner realizes what is happening. If this deep dive into emotional psychology and hidden relationship patterns opened your eyes, explore more content on the channel where we break down the unseen forces shaping connection, attachment, and love. Your relationships can change, but only if you understand the patterns shaping them. Subscribe, follow, and stay tuned for the next chapter in decoding the hidden truths of human connection.